Hey, I'm ZSH Plays. Welcome back to Bellemont Zoo. Last week we built this enormous African savanna for 5 different species. We've already got some cute little babies born in there, and cute is the word of the week because this week we're building a habitat for the adorable Kirk's Dik Dik. This little wooded area right next to the savanna is where we're going to be building, and what we're going to be doing is a study in trying to make the perfect little habitat in a fairly small space. And we're going to be doing something new this week. I've installed this camera right here, and this is going to give us a guest's eye view into the habitat, which we can keep referring back to as we build, like this. And we'll use this to try and make a beautiful habitat for the Dik Diks. The first thing we're going to do is delete these trees and these bushes here to give us some space to work with. We've already got fences at the front and back, you can see them here. And we want to preserve this beautiful view into the savanna without obscuring it with the habitat. That's going to be one of the main things we're concentrating on today. So this fence here at the front needs to be at least 1 meter high to keep the Dik Diks in. They are absolutely tiny. And then this fence at the back needs to be at least 2 meters high to make sure that the larger animals back there don't get into this habitat. We'll quickly put some markers down so we know how high to build the new fence is. So 2 meters at the back and 1 meter here. Now we know what we're doing. We'll start building a more attractive fence for the guest side of the habitat. So I'm going to use this little plank from the Twilight Pack. This is based on a habitat that I saw on Zoo Chat, I think it was. Just a really cute little fence, just some alternating wooden planks like this, one in front of the other. And then we've got a concrete base for them to go on. And then we're going to put this round fairly closely following the fence that's there at the moment before we replace it. I've already got the paths in here, so we want the fences nice up and close to the paths. We're going to place each little section in manually and rotate it so we get a really smooth curve that goes around the front of the habitat to get rid of the slightly straighter lines in the fence that's in there at the moment. It takes a while, but it's well worth doing. It looks really nice when we're finished. So we'll just carry it along here and then curve it round at the end until we get to the fence that marks the end of the savanna, and then we'll take a look at it. Looking good. It's only 1 meter high, so the guests will be able to see right over the top of it, won't be obscuring any of the view of the habitat. So let's deal with the fences at the back now. So because these need to be 2 meters high, what I'm going to do is raise them, and then we're going to have to make a few changes to it because I didn't really notice this when I built the savanna because the fences are so far away from you at all points, but some of the smaller animals and especially the babies could probably actually walk under the bottom of these fences, and they especially will be able to now it's a bit higher. So we'll put some mesh in just to make sure that that doesn't happen. Keep the animals where they should be, and then we'll move on to the barriers. So all we need to do is place null barriers down this one side of the habitat here, make sure they're nicely lined up with that new fence that we've built, and then put in a keeper gate, and that's it. So we use the small keeper gate, and then we can make some adjustments to the fences we just placed so they line up really nicely with the gate. If we move it back a little bit, and that little control panel will actually stick through that piece of wood, and it'll all look like one seamless whole. We'll do the same thing to this piece here, just rotate it a bit more so it lines up nicely with that gate, get everything looking perfect. And then we'll move on and do some more animal containment measures on the savanna side of the habitat. So what I'm going to do is place some large rocks down just behind the fence here, just to give another reason for the animals not to cross over this fence. I mean, not that this should be jumping a 2 meter high fence anyway, but giraffes are pretty powerful and really tall, so anything to dissuade them from walking over here. I'm going to do this just using 2 rocks. I've got this one rock that I really like. We're using rotate all for this, so that's sort of the next level of random rotation where it rotates it on every axis. I don't really use it apart from rocks, not sure what other use it would have, but it's great for rocks because it makes them look much more unique than just using the normal random rotation. So we'll put this one big rock right next to the fence, and then we're going to take a smaller rock and fill in the gaps and just add more of these in so we've got a more sort of formidable barrier that animals aren't going to want to walk on. None of these animals are sort of climbers or animals that live on the side of mountains, so boulders strewn around like this should be enough to dissuade them from walking over there. Once we've got this third layer of rock in, then we'll go and check on our camera and see how the habitat's shaping up. There we go, so it hasn't really obscured it at all. Can still make out the giraffes and everything else. Looks really good. I'll probably drop a couple of the bigger ones down off camera just to make absolutely certain, and then we can get back to the inside of the habitat. We're going to do something similar next to the guest fence, just much smaller because of the size of the animals. So we're just going to run these rocks along the fence here just to discourage the animals from getting too close to it. Dik Diks are pretty shy as well as being tiny, so providing them with some cover and things like that is going to be important in this habitat. I don't think they'll need too much persuading to keep away from the guests, but I'll put those in just to be on the safe side. And then we're going to bring them a little bit closer to the eye line of the guests with them being so small by raising the terrain in the centre of the habitat and then just smoothing it out to make sure it looks nice and realistic. I'm just checking it's not too high, but I'm happy with that. So yeah, we'll smooth it out and then we'll move on to the terrain painting. The way we're going to do the terrain painting is to cover the entire habitat with short grass at 100% intensity and then switch it down to 20% and cover it all with dirt. And that gets the grass looking a bit more realistic, less bright green. We'll put a few patches of sand in as well, and then we'll check it out. This is sitting really nicely in front of the savannah now. I want them to feel almost like one habitat when we're done. Now it's time to move on and build some shelter for Dik Diks. This is not a Dik Dik, this is a statue of a fennec fox, but with that base on the bottom, it's about the same size. So this is going to be our scale model for building the shelter. So we're going to make it as small as we possibly can while still having room for them to get in and out and spend time inside as well. So we'll place a wooden floor down and we'll use this as a base. This is pretty much going to be the footprint. It's only somewhere they need to go if it's super cold outside. We want it to be nice and snug for them. So we'll put some posts in. I'm actually going to switch this exact post out later for one that looks a bit better. And then we'll get some planks in and start building the walls. This shelter is based on one I saw a photo of at Hamerton Zoo here in the UK in their Dik Dik Habitat. So it's just really small, really simple. It is basically just a shed, but it's small. It's got a pretty low profile and it's going to sit very nicely just in the corner of this habitat here, just in front of the keeper gate. And we're going to get loads of detail into this. It's not really going to be that visible, but if you were to walk right past it where those guests just stood at the back, then you're going to be pretty close to it. So we want it to look good. So we're going to alternate these planks to get different textures on them, bring them down, and then we'll start putting some smaller planks in so that we can build a door so the Dik Diks can actually get in and out of this habitat. Unfortunately, these planks have the same texture on both sides, so we can only get 2 variations by spinning it the opposite way. We can't turn it round and get 2 more. We'll put a door frame in as well using the Twilight door frames. With this building being as close to the fence as it is, it's really important that we get a lot of detail in here. So we're going to be going all out with this. I love building out of wood. It's something I've not done enough of in our zoos, I think, and I'm trying to change that and do it as much as possible in Bellemont Zoo when it's appropriate. As well as putting a frame around the door, we'll put a further piece of slightly thicker wood along the bottom of the building as well, just to sit it into the ground nicely. And then we'll check the sizing with our substitute fennec fox. So it looks like the Dik Diks would actually fit through here, but this is Planet Zoo, so I think we're going to need to make it a little bit taller than that. We'll make it as low as I think we can get away with, and when the habitat's up and running, they actually can get in here, which is really pleasing. We'll see that in the cinematics at the end. Let's move on to the next wall. So this is basically the same technique, but we're going to have a window in here, put some glass in there, and then we need a door as well so the keepers can get in here. I like this sort of old, very cheap looking door because it's got these metal details on it which are really cool. So I'm going to sink that into the wall so that the metal details are still visible, and then we'll put some more planks over the top of that so it fits in seamlessly with the rest of the building. And then we're going to use one of the grass panels for the wall. They've got this wood bit underneath them which is flexi-colour, so we can get that to exactly the same colour as the planks that we've been using. It's not quite big enough, so we'll use 4 of these. Just position them in such a way that they completely cover that roof and just look like one big piece of turf that's been placed up on top of a wooden framework on the roof. The wood colour is actually a little bit dark here, but I'll lighten that up and get it to exactly match the planks in a second. So we'll get this first one in, there we go, and then we'll get, I guess, 3 more of them in just to completely cover it. This grass panel and the plant panel as well are some of my favourite pieces in the game. They're so useful. Use the plant panel a lot more than the grass panel, but when you need some grass, it's pretty much the best piece in the game. Time for some more intricate detailing now. So I've got trim in on the top and the bottom of the window there, but the smallest trim piece is 1 metre long and the window is a lot shorter than that. So what we're going to do is take this piece from the Zookeeper's pack, which is 1/2 metre long, which is just slightly longer than it needs to be. If we sink that in there, so just the sides of it poke out, so it's about as thick as the rest of the trim. And if we get it into exactly the right position, there we go. Matches up pretty closely with the trim above it, apart from the fact it's sticking out the top a bit. So we'll just copy it over to this side as well, and then move this one plank at the top just a tiny bit forward to cover up the bit that sticks out. We've got the full trim in, it looks really nice, and you can't really see that it's a different piece there. Now, last week I told you that we had an issue with our Savannah habitat. I asked you to let me know in the comments if you were having similar issues, namely that the giraffe feeder here and the other giraffe feeder over here that I ended up getting rid of were not working. Lots of you told me that you were having the same issue, but one of you told me of a potential solution. HZ Serzi, I've got no idea if I'm saying that right, said that the issue is caused if the animals can't reach the habitat door. I have no idea if that's correct or not, but we're going to test that now. So if we head over behind the mountain, this is the habitat door here, built into the side of the stables, and apparently if the animals can't make it there, that for some reason stops them using the enrichment feeders, even though that makes no sense at all. So if we take a look at one of our smaller animals here, like this warthog, you can see from the heat map that they can go right up to the habitat door. But if we check out one of the giraffes, you can see that they can't get there, and those are the only feeders that aren't working, so maybe there's something in this. So I'm going to check it out now. We're going to make some adjustments to this mountain and just keep deleting bits until the giraffes are able to get to the habitat door. So we'll just delete a few of these rocks, and then we'll go and check out one of the giraffes again, hit play, and update the heat map. Okay, there we go. So now they can get up to the door. This should make the feeders start working. Let's see. Wow, okay, so it actually says accessible when I click on it now, and it was saying inaccessible before. And I think this keeper is heading towards the feeder, so that is looking very promising indeed. Wow, I can't believe that worked. That is such a strange bug. But finally, our giraffes can eat from the feeders, which is awesome. So thank you so much to HZ Serzi for fixing that for me. Wow, it's like a Franchise Masters all over again. And if you're having this problem, just make sure your animals can reach the habitat gates. Let's get back to the build. Time for the grass, so we're going to do this the same way that we did it in the savannah. So we'll use the buffalo grass, although we'll be using some of the medium pieces as well as the large pieces. And once we've covered the habitat, we'll just select it all, drop it down, and then check it out. Alright, this is starting to look good now. I think we need a little bit more grass, but I'll add that in off camera, and we'll move on to putting in the enrichment items. So we've got these pathways in the grass, similar to the savannah, but a bit more subtle considering the tiny little feet that will have created them. And we're just going to put some of the enrichment items at the end of the little grass paths. We use the path trick to get one of them down right in the centre there without spoiling that hill that we made. So we use the bark rubbing pad, which is a really nice enrichment item. And we're going to make a little centerpiece around that using some logs and branches and rocks. I want a couple of spots in this habitat aside from the shelter where the Dik Diks can't be seen by the guests. Like I said earlier, they're pretty shy, so they won't want to be on display all the time. Luckily, we can do that without spoiling the view because they're so small. So we'll just get some rocks in and make sure that they're not going to be high enough to spoil the view into the savannah behind it. I also want to get a tree in this middle part here. So I've been through pretty much every appropriate African tree that I could find. What we're looking for is one with a really thin trunk so that it doesn't spoil the view at ground level, and with the leaves pretty high up so it doesn't spoil the view of the giraffes. We want a nice gap between leaves and ground so that we can still see through it. And I think this is the tree for the job. Yeah, unless one of the savannah animals is standing directly behind the trunk, it's not going to spoil the view at all. We'll get some bracken and a few other bits of plants in here as well, just to get a slightly different shade of green in here and a little bit of height, so it's not just bare rocks and the log. Bit more cover for the Dik Diks as well. And then we'll move on to the rest of the planting and start making it look really beautiful in here. We can't go too crazy with the planting because something interesting about Dik Diks that I learned when I was researching this episode is that they live pretty much exclusively in either savannas or semi-deserts where the grass is short enough that they can see over the top of it with their tiny little bodies. Once the grass is long enough that they can't see over the top of it, they are not happy and they don't stay in environments like that. So we don't want any really long grass in here, and we don't want to fill the habitat with plants either. So we're going to create a few areas of elephant grass that they can hide behind, and then we're going to use some longer grass to cover up the mesh in the fences, and that would also prevent the Dik Dik from wanting to get too close to the fence either, because they won't be able to see over the top of the grass. This is the second little area that they're going to have to get out of sight of the guests, just using this little group of elephant grass here. And here we go, this is starting to look really beautiful now. There's just one more thing I want to do, which is to improve the guest viewing fences. So what we're going to do is firstly just copy the fence on top of itself to make it higher all the way along, and then we'll cut bits out so that the guests have certain areas where they look over to see the Dik Dik and certain areas where they can't really see in, and it gives the Dik Dik a bit more privacy. And if we just make some adjustments to the individual planks, we can make that look really nice as well. And then lastly, we'll just do a little bit of signage on this middle part here. So a couple of the Dik Dik signs, one of Lion's amazing sign blueprints. Can't build anything without those. And that's the habitat done. Let's check it out. And here they are. These guys are absolutely adorable. I think the models and the animation on these is just an absolute treat. They are so close to real life. I saw these a few months ago at London Zoo, and yeah, they're as adorable in-game as they are in real life. The little noses. The guests are even standing in the right place to view them, which is nice. I think the habitat fits in really nicely next to the savannah, and the view across it, the way you've got these little guys pretty close to you, and then the larger animals in the background works really well. And they can actually use their shelter as well, despite how small the door is, which was a surprise. This one's just heading in there now for a little sleep in the evening. I'm already excited to see the babies that they're going to produce, because they are going to be even cuter than this. Doesn't spoil the view from the savannah either, fits in nicely there as well. Let's check out where we started today. Here we go. And this is where we are now. Next week we're going to build what for the moment will be the final habitat in Africa. Thanks for watching as always. Thanks to those of you who've joined the Explorers Club. Hit the join button on the channel if you want to join as well, and I'll see you next week.